I would like to show you the possibilities of the components and selector rule features of SDC Verifier. For the demonstration, I will use the plate model with stiffeners. To create a component, you need to go to Model menu, Components, Add. Component in SDC Verifier, it is a selection which contains nodal or elemental IDs which can be stored with the name. The component can be used later for tables, plots, report, calculations and checks. Give a good name to your component. Choose type, nodal or elemental. And let's add the first rule, all entities. So when we add the all entities rule to our selector, it means we wanted to have here the full model. So that means if you will remesh your model or add extra items, new elements, the component which contains rule all entities will be updated and will take all elements from your model. And now I would like to update my selection and remove all elements that belongs to material 2. So I go to the condition button, select materials, select second material, remove operation. Okay, so now you can see that amount of elements has changed, and my second rule was minus, which means remove elements from material 2. And now I have here two buttons, preview elements in VMap. So if I press it, it will highlight me with red colors and transparent which elements are in my selection. Also, I can use this preview selection only selected elements to see elements which only elements that belongs to my selection. Selections are executed in the order from top to bottom, so the order of conditions are important. For example, if we move the materials condition to the top, then it means that from your empty selection, elements from material 2 is removed, so it's still empty, and then we add the selection add all entities. As we can see, in results we have the full model selected. We can preview that. Again, the full model is selected. To edit the condition, select it and press Edit Condition button. Here you can change the selected materials and operation type. There are 4 operations in SDC Verifier: add, remove, exclude and reselect. I would like to explain the last 2. Let's see an example of exclude operation. Exclude operation is very similar to the remove operation, but the only difference is that if you exclude elements from the selection in any position, it removes it from selection forever. As you can see, I have exclude elements from material 2 on the first position, but my selection is changed. It's not anymore the full model. The exclude operation can be treated also as the remove operation that performs in the end. So if I will add again second material to my selection, you can see that it is not changed, and if we preview our selection, it will be still without material 2. Now let's see the reselect operation. Now let's remove everything. I will add to my selection a group of elements which are located in XY plane. We can preview them. And for example, I want to get the reselect operation with property 3. So what that means? That means that our selector takes all elements from group 3 and finds the common elements that belongs to group 3 and property 3. Let's see what we get. This is the common elements. Also, we can preview the single conditions. I want to see what elements belong to the property tree and to group tree. So reselect operation is executed with elements from the rule and current IDs in a selector and take common elements. The reselect conditions has a sign U, which means union with the previous elements. We have seen all the types of operations, and now we can move to the other rules in selector. Here we also have the possibility to select except materials and properties and groups, which we already did, the fem loads and constraint. For example, I can choose the fem load 2, and it shows me that I have 36 elements, so probably the fem load is applied on nodes. But if I choose here the type elements, the SDC selector gets the nodes from VMap and then gets the attached elements. So I can change the selection to nodes and see. Let's review. As I can see, my load is applied on those nodes, and if we change that to elements, we can see that it adds to the selector all elements which attach the nodes where the loads is applied. Same we can check with the constraint. We have one constraint in our model. So let's see in VMap. So I have in my model all the nodes fixed, and since I selected elemental type, it shows me all the elements which attach to the constrained nodes. The selector tool allows you to create rules based on model data like materials, properties, loads, constraint, and groups. If you will change them in the model, selection will be automatically updated. Let's see what more rules we have in our list. Add visible rule adds all entities visible on the screen in VMap. Then we have 3 rules for the recognition tools, so it is possible to add the sections from panel finder tool, frames, decks into your selection, or members from member finder tools, or welds. We are not going to cover that in details, the recognition tools, but it is possible to add into your selection. Here we have additional rules. Mostly it is related to element property types and shapes, or some specific rules like find all stiffener in the model or plate elements with the free edges. What you can do here, you can pick by element time, like linear plates, parabolic plates, or by shape. For example, you would like to choose for code checking all the I-beams in your model. Let's see a few examples. For example, we can choose all the triangles in our model. Okay, let's preview them. Or we can get, for example, elements by types. For example, we want to have all linear beams included into our selection. Let's preview. And I have all beams in my model. Now I want to show you a few examples of that specific rules. Let's remove those rules. So in our selector we have now the elements from the constraint, and now let's add the rule add attached. If we preview, you can see that my selection grows with extra layer of elements which are attached to the elements of the selection. We can do one more time. It is even more bigger. Let me show you by showing the only elements and fill-in edges, you can see we have 3 layers of elements. The elements from the constraint are only the first layer, and then by attached elements we had 1 layer and another layer. There is a nice rule which adds the plates with 3 edges. We want to add to our selection, we want to remove all the 3 rules, and let's see what we have. It finds all the edges of your model. We like to combine that rule with all the welds. I will show you. We actually have a ready rule for that, all welds with weld in exceptions and plate free edges. So nice contour of your model. Let's see an example of the inversion rule. I will remove attached conditions. And now let's go and add inversion rule. So let's see what we have when we add the constraint elements. You see, this is the only layer of elements at the bottom. And then if you preview the selection after inversion operation, it's all elements except the elements which were in selection before the invert condition. So it's an easy way to invert your selection. That condition does not have operation. It simply changes your selection to the opposite. Let's remove all the conditions and see what we have in the list. We have planes. You can add all elements from XY plane, YZ, that X. Let's do XY. And in female, we get all elements that are in XY plane. The last condition we have is coordinates. So we can add the elements, for example, which are below 9 in by z-axis. So let's see. Yeah, it cuts our models and selected all the elements. Also, we can make it a bit more complicated. For example, it's in the range for z-axis from 5 to 9. You can see here in the rule. And now it selects. And also we can limit that selection in all the 3 axes, so make a box. And finally, let's discuss those 3 buttons. They means add manually nodes or elements from VMap using the VMap selector. Add, remove, and exclude. So let's see an example of add. This menu has some specific rules where you can select also welds by clicking in VMap or plates. But let's first see an example of elements. I click elements. SDC Verifier highlights for me the elements which are in my selection, so this part was red, and then I can add by using the standard VMap selector elements in SDC. So you can see I have new rule with element IDs. But as we mentioned before, it is recommended to use rules and not select element IDs, only in cases where it's really necessary. Because if you will remesh your model or change your model, IDs can be different and your selection will be not the one you have created. Also, I will show you an example of how you can do the selecting welds by elements, but let's clear our selection. Welds, for example, if I go to my model, for example, I can click here, here, and here, press OK, and SDC automatically found for me the elements which belongs to welds. You can see if I want to add more welds, I already see what I have selected. For example, I click here, here, here. And based on recognitions, you can see you need to select only one element which belongs to weld, and that weld is added automatically to your selection. And same is valid for plates, which are recognized in the panel finder for buckling plates. So if you see on the screen the plate you want to add to your selection, it's possible to do it by those rules. As you can see, we have a pretty advanced selector in SDC Verifier based on rules, and the most value what we see in this, it can use the data from the model and recognition, and it's keep your selections up to date. If you have any ideas or comments regarding the functionality of rule selector, please write it below the video. Thanks for watching.